Yes, sir.
Yeah, what about feed-in tariff? It seemed like we were on track, or Michigan was on track.
Scott, just a little bit louder, please.
Okay. The question is feed-in tariffs. It seemed like that stalled.
Yeah.
What's behind that? I'm just trying to get a sense of it. Are we going to see that again?
I think a lot of you know what feed-in tariffs are about, but for those of you who don't, the idea here is how would you incentivize someone to spend a lot of money to put a solar module on top of their house or a wind turbine somewhere where they could generate power and feed it back into the system. I mean, an electric company, they want to make money by selling you power. They don't want to have to pay you to get power out. They want to make their money by selling more and more and more. The feed-in tariff concept essentially says, if I am going to put a module up on my house, I will send power to the electric company with a tariff, with a tax, if you will, so that the differential between what I typically pay for electricity from DTE and what I'm charging them for every kilowatt to DTE is enough not only to help over time pay for that unit that went up on the house, and by the way, the unit stays with the house, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the house now. And it would also be enough to get other people thinking, if Cooley can do it, maybe I could do it. In Germany, I think about 5 years ago, they got the thing going pretty well. And what they do is every third year, they revisit and lower the tariff that's there. Because as time goes on, the idea catches on. They're just trying to get the program started. We need that badly here. And I know that there's a feed-in tariff standard in front of the Michigan Public Service Commission now. There are a series of drafts. It's working its way through. I can't tell you if it's stalled, why it's stalled, but it seems to be taking a longer bit of time than I thought it would. But if we really have in place a renewable portfolio standard that requires 10% of power generation in Michigan to come from renewables by the year 2015, that's going to be pushing some things forward. And I know DTE and consumers and others are working at that. Yes, sir.
Keith, thank you very much for your comments. It's very insightful and interesting. I guess I have a more fundamental question that I'd like to get your thoughts on. Today, the average car buyer spends maybe $22,000 for a new car. And last week at the auto show, we heard that Tata's going to sell the Nano here for about $8,000. So how are we going to get people to spend $40,000 for an electric car or a plug-in hybrid when they can get around town just fine in an $8,000 car?
And
I'm struggling with that.
Yeah. And the $8,000, what was it? Which car?
Tata Nano.
Oh, the Tata Nano. Internal combustion, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a dilemma. And it's been, that same set of issues has been solved in Europe and through much of the rest of the world by a series of collective fathers and mothers at state and federal government saying you can't sell gas at that price anymore. You know, in Italy, gas is what, $7, $8 a gallon? We'd die if it was that here. But the problem is we've never quite figured out here how to capture the total cost of carbon. I mean, pulling it out of the ground, putting it in a car and doing what you do and then trying to figure out what it's going to cost to fix that is really expensive. It's a lot more than $2.75 per gallon. And frankly, I mean, you've asked a very good question because there are many of us that have said we believe a policy ought to be in place that's a really pretty tough national renewable portfolio standard, and we have to tax carbon. We've got to figure out some way to get people to understand this crap that this stuff that we're paying $2.85 a gallon for isn't going to be around forever. There's only about 100 years worth of known reserves, as I've seen in some of the materials I've looked at, and when it's gone, what was I thinking? You know, we'll be doing that. We'll be doing that around water in 50 years. That's the next precious element that we can't, or commodity that we can't seem to figure out. I don't know. And with all of the back and forth between the Democrats and the Republicans and so forth in Washington and in the state and around the country, about what makes sense. You're going to subsidize this, you're going to tax this, and you're going to throw the financial system out of kilter. I have to believe one way or the other, and this is going to sound harsh, but I'm there. We've either got to tax the carbon substance in the stuff that we use for energy, or we've got to subsidize the use of these new ways of doing business, or we got to do both. And I think when you look at the carbon capture and sequestration and some other things, you're seeing some people trying to figure out how that's going to work. I'm with you. I am with you, though. A $40,000 volt, you've got to put some subsidies in place both at the federal and the state level just to get it down to about $25,000, and you're still not running equal up. It's a good question. I'm sorry I don't have the answer. I wish I did. Yes?
You brought up the point of the homeowner, and so many homes are antiquated with 100-amp systems and et cetera. And who's going to lead the charge to upgrade these homes to allow them to put the higher than 220, 230, whatever it takes, amps into a home in order to drive this? I mean, you have to have electricians and break up cement and put in amperage. And this is a big infrastructure problem. That's why we're so reliant on gas stations today. It's easy. You pull up, you put it in, and you leave. I don't have the burden of taking care of and putting a gas tank in my home to fill my car and get it refilled. So somebody has to lead that charge, or else people are going to not buy the car because how do I fill it? Sure. What do I do? So if the infrastructure's not there, you can't build it and they won't come.
Yeah. Part of the infrastructure is there. I mean, I would bet a 660 line comes from where almost all of us pretty close. And you know, if you've got an electric stove or you got a dryer or electric dryer, you probably got something like that. Almost every gas station somewhere's got a 220 line you tap into. You know, they bring them in and they tap across 220 to get 110. So I mean, part of it's there. But your point is well taken. There's still some homes in Detroit, I know. If you go inside, you'd be scared. You're going to find a 60-amp fuse box. You're not going to find breakers. And, you know, you put 220 in some of those things, it goes. But there is a program now going across the nation where there is a set of federal funds that's put in place for energy efficiency. A number of organizations are being chosen to sort of administer the funds, and will be training energy auditors to go look at stuff and then, you know, figure out how do you add insulation, you know, add better windows, and do a number of different kinds of things that will drive energy efficiency. My suspicion is that many of those same folks will have the kind of knowledge needed to figure out how to, you know, make the change over so that the house is in good shape for a 220 system. It won't be easy, it won't be fun, and the two questions here especially sort of just highlight the idea that this is not something we can sit down on. We cannot sit down and say it's somebody else's problem. We got to figure out how to get out there. I mean, I don't want anybody to go to jail over this, but I think we ought to be mad as hell and not going to take it anymore, if you will, from the old movie. We got to figure out how to do that, and for some of us it means not making the $500,000 or $600,000 a year you're making. You got to go down. You have to work for not-for-profit, maybe $200,000 a year.